magnetic JT30 mic, which is the equivalent of an unamplified D104. And I also have a separate manual TR switch. I got several comments about bad contacts, and it may be, you know, with a D104, you've got a multi-contact switch in the base that doesn't always make good contact. So that sounds like a job for Deoxit. So that's a rundown, and I'm still cheating on the receive end. I'm receiving on the PR30 PALSTAR solid state receiver with the SE3 what do you call it, synchronous detector. And the only problem there is the synchronous detector doesn't key when it doesn't mute, rather, when I unkey the transmitter. It's not muting the SE3, although it mutes a receiver. So it mutes the front end, but not from the detector and the audio output. So I can get feedback, and so I have to turn it down when I'm ready to transmit, which is an aggravation. I'm not sure. I believe Steve has an SE3. Steve, you might comment on how you solve that problem. Maybe you have an extra contact to kill the speaker off the SE3. I don't know. But it sure does have fantastic audio. And of course eliminates selective fading. This is going to be an old buzzard transmission. Buddy, you said you're receiving with an SX115. I had several 75A4s and never liked them. I much prefer the SX115. So tell me what your opinion is of the 115 versus the 75A4, or anything else for that matter. I've read a lot of the reviews, and I think it's a great receiver. And but I've read a lot of reviews where they kind of poo-poo it and say it was overpriced. But I got lucky when I bought mine, and it wasn't overpriced. But it's one thing, it has a variable BFO, which the 75A4 doesn't have. That's one of my pet peeves. A communications receiver needs a variable, especially on CW. So enough said on that. And Gary, on drive level control, I've got a couple of the Alinco SRT9 receivers, and transceivers rather, and they do not have a variable power output control. And MFJ makes a little black box that you plug into the ALC if your transceiver has an ALC input, and it's it's a variable input to the ALC, so that it varies the output of the transceiver so that you can drive an amplifier. That's a neat little trick, and they're pretty inexpensive and pretty simple. If anybody needs more detail, I can give them that. So everybody should be asleep by now, so it's time to wake up. So Mir, take it away. WF2U in the group, the ever brief KZ4 Bravo, over.
KZ4B and the net, this is WF2U. All right, excellent copy on everybody. And the noise level is pretty low and no problems whatsoever. The classical armchair copy, everybody. I love this PMR7 receiver. It's really sensitive and very stable considering. And let's see, the AF-67 on peaks, I'm reading about 50 watts on peaks with a 30 watt carrier. But of course my peak reading meter is nonsense. So anyway, yeah, I have about 30, just about, let's see, yeah, about 30 watts carrier. Anyway, Ray, a comment to the fact that you like my Asus setup. Well, I decided this morning to go really all hollow state and not go with a solid state and hybrid stuff, and got on the Elmac. If you recall the previous weeks, I was using also all hollow state. Used the heat kit station, the Cheyenne and the Comanche. So now I can do something else. I have to fix the heat kit DX100, which I used for several years here. All of a sudden I don't get high voltage, but nothing is smoking. The fuses are okay. Absolutely nothing overheated, so I have to look what happened. Maybe some silly things, but I have to be ready for some nice weightlifting exercise here. But even the cabinet is heavy, but it's on the top, so I don't have to lift it up or take it down over the shelf. It's eye level, so I can just pull it to where it is and work on it. I don't have much of an effort to put in it. Anyway, yeah, the ART13 sounds good, Dave, and they always sound good with a decent microphone. And it's time to wire up mine again. If some of you recall, until about 3 years, maybe 4 years ago even, I used the ART13 quite a lot on this net. In the meantime, I just reorganized some shelving and then I disconnected everything, and it's just sitting on the shelf next to the BC348 that I was using it with, and the cables are all nicely rolled up. So it's time to start hooking it up again and get it on the air. What else? Yeah, that's about it. Oh yeah, I wanted to tell Steve regarding that conversation or that problem that I found with that marine transceiver, that the microphone element was dead. So I found on eBay a brand new 500 ohm dynamic mic element that would fit exactly in the microphone case, and but I'm not going to get it before next week. So in the meantime, it's going to be quiet. I'm not going to be on the air. But anyway, so with that, it goes to George. You have a pretty good signal here, as I said before. K4GDN in the net. This is WF2U.
WF2U in the groove is K4GDN. And maybe I'll make an old buzzer one this time. I think I had my audio turned up a little too high. the last time. Looks like I'm reaching 100% on the modulation of the AF-68, and I'm curious, where did you put your? I think I'm talking to Gary now. Where did you put that control for the driver? I'm looking at the schematic, and I would say in the cathode of V4. And what value did you use for that pot? And it is a 1 watt resistor that's in there now. And as far as the tuning up the grounded grid amp, particularly the 3001, I figured out that that tune control only works with the Collins equipment. And when I'm tuning grounded grid, I'm looking at power out as well as plate current and grid current. And that's pretty much how I tune. And I noticed one thing on my 3001, it does not have an opening to adjust that tune control adjustment that they mentioned in the instructions on it. So if you were to try to make any adjustment, you would have to override an interlock there, a high voltage interlock. But anyway, I tuned it based on power output, particularly anytime I'm tuning a grounded grid. I'm looking at power out as well as plate current and grid current. And grid current really is what I keep a real close eye on, as well as plate. And with the homebrew 811s I'm running now, this came out of a 60s edition of the handbook. I can see my 811s, and they're no color at all. And in the article, they said run them up to 350 mils plate current with 1500 volts, and I'm not anywhere near that. I'm running a little over 125 idling, and grid current's kicking up to maybe 40 mils or so on the meter. It may be a little higher than that. And on the indicator, the modulation indicator, looks like I'm kicking at 100% there, and I'll put about 5 watts into the linear out of the AF-68. And I did have a little problem with my PMR7 here the last few weeks. It seemed like the squelch was coming in when it shouldn't have. I had it turned all the way off, don't use it on AM. And that circuit is very compact and hard to get around in. What I ended up doing was I just went in there and lifted the wiper off the squelch pot, and that disabled the squelch stage so it no longer operates. Turning it down all the way didn't really always get it out. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't, and it seemed like the longer the receiver was on, the more likely it was that the squelch would try to kick in a little bit. Couldn't get any background noise on some antennas. On other antennas I could. Anyway, that'll do for my old buzzard transmission this time. And let's see, it goes to Buddy. WB4ARK in the group, K4GDN.
K4GDN, WB4ARK. Okay, George, you still got a steady signal here into Lake Wiley this morning. Looks like it's getting a little bit brighter out. Sun's showing a good bit more, and so I think our minor cloud cover has moved on off. I'm running the ART13, and on the SX115 it's a very good receiver. I've been very pleased with its operation. Very little trouble with it, and I can say that I wouldn't want to compare it to the 75A4, but I haven't used the 75A4 that much on the air, so I'll leave it at that. Dave, your transmitter sounds great this morning. The RT13 is a very good transmitter, and I think for the most part it works correctly when you turn it on, and lasts a long time. So that's about all I can say for it. I think, John, as far as tuning up your screen modulated unit, I would read the Radio Amateur Handbook. It's a pretty drawn out process, and it's, I would say, well, considerably more complicated than a plate modulated transmitter. And definitely most or all of the instructions that I have read talk about tuning with CW first, and then switching to either AM or single sideband. But I think you'd do well to say maybe read the 62 section on screen modulation, 62 ARRL handbook on grid modulation, screen modulation, sorry, and get a feel for exactly what's going on. Let's see, I think that's about it for right now. So we'll turn it over to Gary, K3OS, WB4ARK.
Okay, buddy, WB4ARK in a group from K3OS. All well and good. Skies are starting to clear here. I see some patches of blue. So when the net is over, I think I'm going to go out and get a little walk-in this morning, which would kind of suit me pretty well. A couple of, we had as a result of the storm, not last night, but the night before last, had a power outage for, turns out to be about 2.5 hours when we were sleeping. Apparently a tree knocked over some, cut through some power lines for about 80 some people in my neighborhood here. But fortunately I was sleeping, didn't seem to affect anything. And when I got up in the morning, everything was working except for the clocks, and that's kind of how I knew. And of course, all my Christmas timers had to be reset for all the lights. But that's normal. George, the answer to your question is the pot I put in where there's just a bolt up in the left-hand top corner of the VFO thing. There's that little bolt in there. I took that out, put the pot in there. And what I had on hand, it was a 100K 1-watt pot, but it's in series with about a 20K resistor, and then the 20K feeds the high end of the pot. The wiper goes into the screen of the driver, pin 6 of the driver tube, and then the pot goes to ground, and that's how I'm regulating the drive level. And it's really holding steady. It's really nice to see and bring it down. And I'm also having, and maybe I'll email you, I'm also having squelch problems on my PMR7. I've been chasing this one for a year, and maybe you have the answer to it. In fact, I've got the receiver. It's open, sitting on top of the transmitter at the moment. I'm just trying to figure out whether it's the pot or maybe the pot is shot or something like that. But maybe we'll converse on that issue. Let me turn it down to Charlie, W4MEC K3OS.
Okay, Gary, K3OS in the group, W4MEC. Oh, real good sequence that time. Everybody's coming in just fine here. No issues signal-wise. Continuing on with my little lap project here. It didn't turn out to be the wires under the wire nuts. It turned out to be the little connector plugged into the battery. Little battery pigtail wire, which had a little green on it. So actually the negative terminal was, the female was not making connections. So I kind of cleaned it up, but you know how it is. Usually when a connector gets corroded like that, you never can get it right.
and you got to replace it, but I don't have one, so I'm going to have to see if I can find this little teeny tiny connector that is being used in this application, which is normally one you would find in a cordless phone. For those batteries, it's the same size, same dimensions, 2-pin, but I'm going to have to locate one of those, and probably Amazon has them, so I have to check. And I'll get like 20 of them instead of one I need, so I'll be prepared for the next 2,000 years as it goes bad after every couple of years, I guess. Who knows? Let's see. Radio comments? No, I don't really have anything to add about the comments being made about radio stuff. I do have a PMR 7 and a AF-67, and I got to the point of rebuilding the power supply and wiring up the connector to the transmitter, and it was hardwired from the homebrew power supply into the transmitter plug, which I can't remember if it was a 15 or an octal. I think the PMR 7 has an octal connector. But anyway, and the PMR 7 had a bunch of mods in it, so I wanted to double check the transmitter and see if they put any mods in it, rewired the plug, did anything like that, and I got it to the point where I took the cover off and inspected it, and everything was factory fresh, so I knew everything was, pins were going to pin out right, and that's where the project ended right there. I can't remember what catastrophe came along after that, but it did, so got kind of pushed to the side. And, yeah, I hear that subliminal suggestion there, buddy. Turn it on. So I got it. And I'm in this more or less the same spot that Mir is in. Everything is set up. The BC348's there. Transmitter's there. The power cables are near, but they have not decided sometime in the middle of the night to, on their own, go up and connect themselves to the ART13. So, I am very close to getting that going, and it's been a month at least, right? Something like that, maybe 2. And it's about like my truck project. My truck project, I got all the new ignition installed, everything's ready to go, but I need to rebuild the carburetor, and I've not found the oomph to take the carburetor off the truck so I could go rebuild it. So, and that's been a couple of months. So. I'm almost there. Maybe everything will come together in a galactic alignment and all the projects will be done at the same instant. So we will find out. I'm going to turn it over to Ray if he's not there. As he warned, it goes back to Lee. So let's see. W4VRO in the group, W4MEC.
Well, I don't hear him. Ray, are you there? W4VRO, K4VWD. Well, I guess he's departed. I've only got 1 or 2 radio type things to mention. Sunday, my ladder line was wet, and I really had to, this old Ten-Take tuner, I had to tune it. And this morning I had to retune it because the ladder line is completely dry. So George, I think this is the first time I've been through the whole net and you're still strong. So a good signal. That amplifier's working well with you. And the temperature has risen to 46 degrees and maybe 47 by now. So the temperature is climbing. So it's been a good net so far. We got 10 in here. So Dave, go ahead. WA4LLR in the group, K4VWD.
All right. Fine business, still great copy on everybody. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Wife and I have got to head to Asheville here shortly. But I've sure enjoyed it this morning. Excellent signals. Good to hear all the vintage gear going strong. Lee, thanks for calling the net. Hope everybody has a great day. Lee, glad you had a good Christmas with the folks. and been good to be here with you. So I'll say 73. God bless, and Lord willing, we'll catch up with you on Sunday afternoon. N4LQ, WA4LLR.
WA4LLR, N4LQ. Okay, first of all, I want to say, let's see, K4GDN, I thought you only had one 811, and that's why I said what I did. So ignore what I said about 75 watts. You were talking about your 811, and I thought you meant you just had one. So you got two. That changes everything anyway. And Gary, I think the level pot's probably a good idea. It doesn't make sense why Elmac didn't put one in to begin with. I never did think detuning the grid current was a good idea to reduce it anyway. And that'd probably cure all kinds of problems to put that pot in. And Lee, okay, on your wet ladder line, I read a funny story, and it's supposed to be true, about a guy that got real smart and put Rain-X, which is like silicon, on his ladder line to keep the rain off, or so he thought. And boy, it wrecked everything. Once it got wet, it wouldn't dry. it just sat there with beaded water all over it, and messed up the tuning for a long time. So don't do that. I guess all you can do is switch over to the real deal. And I was reading a 1927 ARRL handbook on how to build antennas, and back then, of course, ladder line was about all they used for feed line. Matter of fact, I think it was all they used for feed line. There wasn't any coax, and they recommended the use of glass toothpaste holders. Apparently, back in those days, toothpaste holders were like tubes made of glass, and there was a metal cap on at least one end. And so what you did was, and they recommended using the type with two metal caps, one on each end, and I'd never seen that. I looked on eBay, and I did find some antique ones. They were like anywhere from $68 on up to $300 for one of those things. You were supposed to drill a couple of holes in each metal cap, pass a little piece of wire through it, and lash your feed line to each side of that glass tube. And I thought, man, that's going to be one big heavy piece of feed line by the time you add up all that glass. Of course, Johnson used to sell ceramic insulators for that too, and those were heavy. So major weight. I like the electric fence licorice sticks. They work really good. And so that's about it. I'll say my 73s, and hope everybody has a great day today. And next time we meet will be Thursday. And don't forget tonight, 8 o'clock on 160, more AM fun. KZ4B, N4LQ.
Okay, N4LQ in the group. This is KZ4 Bravo. Fine business, Steve. Boy, conditions have been quite good today, and that's nice for a change. I can hear. A quick comment on the ladder line. The antenna I'm talking on has nominal 5-inch long polyethylene tubing, and you can get it in rolls and just chop it up. And the trick, you notch the ends, and then it's expensive for what it is, but it really works. Thomas & Betts makes a tie wrap. They're 14 inches long, and they have a little metal tab. When tie wraps are up there for a long time, the little tab that actually grabs the tie wrap deteriorates. But with the metal tab, it's actually stainless steel. Those suckers will last forever. And if you pass the tie wrap through the inside of the tube it's really not exposed to the sunlight. It's shielded by the tube. And you can, I don't know if they still do it, but electric radio, there used to be a guy that sold hand manuals, and he also sold ladder line that was put together by handicapped people. And it was very reasonably priced. I don't know if they're still doing that. That's how I got a lot of mine. And but he just would notch it, and it wouldn't stay together very well until you added the tie wrap. And mine's been up now for about 10 years, no problem. And it's absolutely weatherproof. The tuning does not change one iota. And I used to use the window line, and I'd have to retune it as the weather, the wetness of the line changed. So that's one suggestion. And shifting gears, Charlie was talking about wire nuts. And in my professional life, I was driven crazy by control valves like the Red Hat solenoids that just came with pigtails. There were no terminals, so you had to use a wire nut or a crimp terminal. Well, the problem with a crimp terminal is that if you need to change it out or want to get in there to test anything, you had to clip it, and then your pigtail is shorter, and that's no good. So I needed a reliable wire nut. And I don't know what the brand is, but the Wireman, the Landrum outfit, they sell wire nuts for terminating the ends of your antenna that have a set screw in a little brass ferrule. And they're expensive as wire nuts go, but they are absolutely bulletproof. And I used them back in my professional days, and I never had a problem. And so if you're doing an antenna or otherwise need a wire nut, that's what I use. And it's just you can take it apart without messing anything up, and it makes a guaranteed good connection every time. So on that note, I will say, Lee, thank you for calling the net. Hope everybody has a great week, and appreciate the feedback on tuning the amplifier. I've got a 62 handbook, so buddy, I'm going to get mine out and read it over and over and over again. That's the only way it'll soak in. So, Mir, take it away. WF2U in the group, this is KZ4, be clear.
This is WF2U. Yeah, very good all around. Great signals. Enjoyed it. No noise. And nice net. And Lee, thanks for running the net. And I'm glad I didn't have to go anywhere this morning, so here I am. And Charlie, yeah, I have several systems that are waiting to be reactivated again. Just like the ART13 and the BC348. And I also have a somewhat similar in size, but much heavier, the ATD, which was the competitor of the ATC, which of course is the ART13 in the original project for the Navy. To replace some of the old transmitters on Navy aircraft. So I have the ATD, which I also had on the old Transnet, but it's almost double the weight of the ARC-13 and just about half the power. So I need to wire it up also. I have all the cables neatly laid out by the equipment, and it's just gathering dust in the meantime after years of service on a shelf. But I need to be really motivated. Anyway, so I enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I can use relatively low power. And Old Hollow State, and it was nice to have a net with a large number of relatively large number of multi-Elmac equipment. So with that, I'll say 73 to everybody. Have a great end of the week, and then we'll get together on Sunday again. The weather doesn't look so far in the weather forecast. It looks all right. Well, with that, it goes for George. Take care, and I'll be listening to the end of the net. K4GDN, this is WF2U.
Okay, Mayor, WF2U in the room's K4GDN. Yeah, Steve, your comment about the 811 is interesting. I guess my homebrew is kind of similar to a courier.
I guess George is not
on the input. I've got pi tuned inputs on mine, and I think that works pretty well. Like I say, I have never really had any problems with this, and the handbook indicated you could run 350 mils of plate current and about 60 mils of grid current, and it was a half kW input. This was, I think, in the 66 handbook. Yeah, it's been in several of them. But anyway, be that as it may. And I appreciate the comment Charlie made about the 30L1 and tuning it with that tune indicator. I had come to the conclusion that was also the case that it only worked with the Collins equipment. And like I say, when I'm tuning grounded grid, I'm looking at power output as well as grid and plate current. And Lee, thanks for calling the net today. It's been very good. Glad you can hear me all the way around. You're always strong here. I will make one comment about the ladder line, though. I'm on a ladder line fed dipole right now, and I would say well over 75 or 80% of my ladder line is vertical. It's coming straight down before it comes into the shack. And I really haven't had any serious issues there with it getting wet. One thing I will know, though, when I'm using the ladder line antenna and I'm using a Tintec tuner, I do not use that internal voltage balun. I use an external one-to-one current balun on the end of my ladder line and feed that into one of the coax inputs. I've never been a fan of voltage baluns at all, and I've always used current baluns, and I don't have any trouble there. The voltage balun in the Tintec tuner has kind of had a sordid reputation. Anyway, like I say, I avoid voltage baluns, but I do like the current ones. So with that, I'm going to say 73, God bless, and Lee again, thanks for calling today, and I look forward to hopefully being in here on Sunday afternoon. And next Thursday, hopefully I'll be at Spartanburg. So with that, I'll pass it on to Buddy, WB4ARK in the group K4GDN.
K4GDN, WB4ARK. Okay, George, still a very good signal. And everybody's signal was very good today, except Gary, you had a little bit of fading on the last transmission, but otherwise it was a very good signal. Well, I like the current balun also. I've used those for years, and so that's about all I can say about that. And John, that's good on the 62 handbook. That's the manual I use to build my 4400. It's featured in the handbook, a 1 kilowatt 4400 amplifier, single 4400, and I used it on CW for many years, and then when we moved down here to Lake Wylie, I plate modulated it. Didn't have to make any changes in the amplifier itself since it was already set up for that, and worked out pretty good. It's also works very good on a single sideband. So with that, I guess we'll say 73. Everybody have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you on Sunday, hopefully. Oh, we had 1.6 inches of rain the day before. We didn't have any last night. The day before, we had 1.6 inches, and we had about we had almost 2 inches of rain the day before that. So that's what we had with that with the storm. So over to Gary, K3OS, WB4ARK, clear.
Okay, thank you again, buddy. I'll just pass along my 73s. Thanks, Lee, for calling the net this morning. Everybody, it's nice to have a net when you can hear everybody, and the QRN is down and QSB is there, but not terrible, catching every word from everybody's transmission. Everybody have a really pleasant weekend if we don't talk to you. Have a great New Year. W4MEC in the group, K3OS.
Okay, K3OS in the group, W4MEC. Real good round. A couple of comments real quick. I remember I was wondering about that toothpaste tube gadget there. Steve, we have an antique thing, and it's made out of ceramic, and it has a ceramic key on it that fits through the ceramic base, two holes on each, a hole on each side, and you put the end of the toothpaste tube in the slot on the crank, and you turn the crank there like a thumb screw type turn, and it actually squeezed the tube down. And this was in the day of the metal tubes. I think they were lead. And when you got done with the toothpaste tube, you pulled the handle out and threw the little wound up little thing away. But I was curious about the gadgets you were talking about, if they were meant for just going on the end of a toothpaste tube, and so you could roll it up to empty the tube, something like that. That's all I could think of. And you know, and for years, I might even still be in there, the build your own lateral. Well, I take it back. ARRL doesn't do build your own anything anymore, but they used to have a procedure for boiling your dowel rods, depending on how wide you cut them, in paraffin, and to coat them. And if you looked at how they made those dowel rods, you know, all home brew, you cut a notch on the ends of the rod to hold the wire, then you drilled a hole through the rod, and after you boiled them all and you're putting your ladder line together with the feed line in the notch, you passed another wire through the hole in the rod, and you wrapped it around the feed line to hold it in the notch and keep it from moving. So I remember those in the old handbooks. I never did it, but I can see where it would be pretty labor intensive. Making any ladder line by yourself is labor intensive, and yeah, several places sold spacers, insulators for ladder line of different types. I think Johnson had some clear glass ones at one time. So, and the other thing I was going to comment about the lack of power control in a 1950 Elmac. The first thing I thought of back then was nobody amplified an AM signal back then because you needed a linear amplifier, and that was just starting with single sideband. So all I was thinking about there was using an Elmac as a driver for a final with a CW driver with a final with a plate modulator on it. But I guess the other issue that might have been handy was amplifiers back then were all screen tubes, so they only took 4 or 5 watts to drive them to 1,000 watts in. So that was maybe a little problematic too. So I'm sure they had their issues with not putting in screen control power out, but probably the bottom line is the number of people actually utilizing it versus the cost of putting in a pot. So that's a couple things I thought about. So 7-3 all, good signals all around. We'll look for you on Sunday, not Thursday, Steve. And I hope you all have a good rest of the week here. And let's see, when does New Year's arrive? We're not yet ready for Happy New Year. We'll see you later. K4VWD, 783 all W4MEC.
Okay, Charlie, very good. Thank you. W4MEC, K4VWD. Looks like I'm up about 140, 150 cycles. So we'll take a quick standby here and see if anybody's got any final comments. Any final comments, please call me now. Don't hear any. So I guess Sunday's net will be the last one for the year. And we'll have a new year. So it's been a wonderful net, and I agree. The signals have been really good. I've thoroughly enjoyed the net. And the last home-built ladder line I saw was Hank, W2IQ. Had one that he had built, and I remember that, looking at it, but I haven't seen a home-built one since then. So with that, we'll close the net. Say 7-3, God bless. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to talking to you on Sunday. Would be our last net for 2023, and we'll start a new year on Tuesday. So with that, again, 7-3, God bless, and George, what a great signal. So, and Charlie, you are booming in here. So with that, take care, everybody, and hopefully things will work good on Sunday. So this is K4VWD now closing the Old Friends Net.